Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
Hey guys, so we're checking out the aftershocks going on in Haiti, and this is what we see currently at the moment. The largest aftershock was at 5.8, and this is, as we knew it was going to be, a devastating and horrible event. So you have 9 aftershocks here in 24 hours. And we see this headline, I hope they hear us praying. Yes, the prayers are being heard. The beings on the higher realms, the angelic realms, what we would call the Davic realms, they hear, and they are there for us. But again, many people will question why do the atrocities that happen on this globe or spherical object happen? And it's because of free will. It is simply because of free will. And this is why you can have these horrible things happening. And now we are being told that there are over 700 dead, at least 724 have been lost, at least 2,800 injured. That will still climb. And again, anywhere from a 7.2, some sources were saying it was a 7.6 that hit this western part of Haiti. And by the way, they may have to deal with some rain as well. They've gone through a lot. You guys might forget already, because we have so many things going on in the world. Haitians were already contending with the assassination of their president. Do you remember that? That was just last month. Yes, they lost their president. They have instability due to gang violence and surges in, the plague upon the land. And the country still hadn't recovered 11 years later from the 2010 quake that took anywhere from 250 to 300,000 plus lives. Tropical Storm Grace is headed for the island this week after Tropical Storm Fred knocked out power to 400,000 Haitian homes and businesses. Yep. So, state of emergency in effect. Let us please send our prayers and best wishes to these poor people that are suffering from really one thing after another after another.
Yeah, they don't get a break. They don't get any rest. They don't get any time just to sit and be. It's all about being in survival mode constantly.
And, there will be those that say, well, this is just simply the Most High God delving out his judgment. And I do not believe that for a second. Not one little second, not at all. It doesn't ring true. As far as the source of the multiverse, the one source of everything. Now, beings have been called gods before that are not beings. Is this the wrath of some being that is not a god? That I would believe.
Yeah, I believe that too. That's a very good point.
Absolutely. So we're looking at Tropical Storm Fred. As we see, it looks like it's making a panhandle landing somewhere around 50-ish mile an hour winds. Again, it all depends on how much water we get. And so it's north-northwest at 12 miles an hour. That's good news. At least it's not going at 1 or 2 miles an hour where it could stay in saturating area. And we'll hope it doesn't slow down. So this should just be a rainmaker. And as you see here, Fred did re-strengthen to tropical storm status and will make its way on up through Alabama and into the Tennessee area before heading up and over towards the northeast. Now, this is the one I'm more concerned with, as when I just even heard the storm's name, Grace, a few days ago, it hit me that this we might not be looking at a Hurricane Michael. Let's hope not. Or any of those other devastating ones we could bring up, Harvey and Irma. The list goes on and on and on. But the location is one of concern. So as you see here, yeah, it's going to be going by, adding more misery to people in Haiti. If it rides clear through the channel here, it has the opportunity to strengthen quite a bit. If it comes down south, goes over the mountains there, in Hispaniola, then has to go through Cuba, it could break up and be basically nothing but just a rainstorm. As you see here, it's projected for Friday to be about 65 mile an hour, heading perhaps towards New Orleans or Houston. And we know with the augmentation that can happen in these days by the quote unquote wrath of God, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah, it's something to watch. This one is definitely something to watch. It's moving west northwest at 16 miles an hour. So, Grace is something I'm gonna definitely keep a closer eye
Oh
on.
yeah, we both got kind of a bad gut when we took a look at Grace. It's like, ooh, I feel something that's not so good there.
So the analysis at USGS said that 7.5 in the South Sandwich Islands was a foreshock of an 8.1 that came later. And that was a large one, but there have been in history large ones here. Again, they don't really cause damage here, but they can transfer energy elsewhere. And, some will wonder, is this connected with what's going on in Haiti? And again, I kind of feel like Haiti is its own unique entity, and I don't believe it has anything to do with the sins of the people, even though I do believe there is karma, there is a law of cause and effect. I feel also, so often the people of this world are caught in a ping pong game, so to speak. We could look at it in that way, and we see it geopolitically all the time, where it's the people that suffer. And I want to do a video over on Evolutionary today talking about some history because I have a very strong deja vu feeling of history repeating itself that I want to share with you guys over there. So 300% more fireballs than normal during an unexpected Perseid meteor outburst here in 2021. As the Perseids, were going to or are going to be peaking, have been peaking 300% higher than expected. Steeper magnitude size distribution index than normal annual shower component. So what do you think? There's got to be something else in the mix, right?
Oh, I think so. It's going to be a surprise.
3 volcanoes erupting at the same time in Alaska. Alaska has a lot of volcanoes. We typically see maybe one eruption every year on average. This is from Matthew Lowen, a research geologist with the Alaska Volcano Observatory. To have 3 erupting at once is less common, but it does happen. But again, not typical. And then when we pile everything else on, like the severe flooding over in Turkey's Black Sea region, remember the Black Sea, all those issues, all the military, events, and we had the UK ship being trailed by the Russian ships. Well, this is the third such event in 4 weeks. Death toll from the flooding rises up to 58. As you see, this road is pretty much no more, definitely impassable. That was a road collapse there. So 1 month after floods and landslides killed 6 in Turkey's Black Sea region, heavy precipitation took hold in the region's central parts on Tuesday and Wednesday. A woman went missing in Bartend, one of the provinces hit worst by rainfall that triggered floods on Tuesday. Floods also reported in other locations as well, sweeping away large number of houses and businesses and vehicles as well. We were talking about this all the way back in 2017 again. You have to exercise more caution in these times. And then Afghanistan and what's going on over there. We had seen reports Biden mobilizes 5,000 troops for urgent Afghan evacuation to get them out. There was reports last night of troops being encircled. And again, we don't ever really get a clear picture. And in this world, I think the picture is going to get less clear every day.
Oh, yeah, for sure. With all the media that we have, it's amazing how they're able to manipulate it as well as they do.
And we have to be careful even more about what we're saying, as we got some warnings from from family members that are like, guys, did you see this? Because there was a bulletin that went out. And, we know everything before it happens because we get warned from our sources as far as, we know about the lockstep that's going on. And, when I think of lockstep, what does that really mean? Well, that means, kind of falling in line behind. When you see the military marching in lockstep, it's one after the other, moving in perfect unison and harmony. There can be no divergence. There could be no, well, anything other than. And that's really what we are seeing manifesting right now. And I keep, going back, and I keep telling Cindy too, and perhaps it's because again of my upbringing, because my mother was a huge influence on me, as she was the one that was the historian in the family, and it rubbed off on me for sure. Though I had an innate desire to learn everything I could possibly learn, which is due to where my Rahu is and my astrological chart. This is just who I am, an insatiable desire to uncover every mystery that there is.
Leave no stone unturned.
And I don't. That's just always been me since I was a little kid. And I never wasted, in my mind, I hardly ever wasted time watching something I couldn't learn from, or reading a book I couldn't learn from. It had to always be about learning and not really about pure enjoyment, although sometimes, well, for me, they go hand in hand anyway. So we see the Afghan president fleeing the country as the Taliban move on Kabul. And so many people are talking about this being reminiscent of Vietnam. And of course, Vietnam was most definitely a stain on the U.S. military in so many ways. And of course, Vietnam was the first war where we saw people dissenting. We saw people taken to the streets and saying, "This doesn't make any sense. We don't buy this. We don't agree." People were dodging the draft, and of course, if you were wealthy enough, you could always get off of anything. As we've had even presidents that have dodged drafts, meanwhile sent so many people to their deaths fighting wars. And, so many of these wars, especially since the big WW2, it's been an obvious control, resource grab, and profit making machine to so many. And, we see a Chinook here, airlifting. This is one of the heavy lifters, as we've seen many of these go overhead, and so have many other people in many other areas of the country, in the U.S. right now, as the U.S. is getting ready for something, as the whole world is getting ready for something. And we've been talking about this the entire time the channel has been up, starting at Evolutionary and then going onwards with EEARTS. President Ghani leaves Afghanistan, top official confirms, as U.S.-backed government relinquishes power to the Taliban. And so he has fled. They say he fled to Tajikistan, and he's going to travel from there somewhere else. And, so ends another chapter in Afghanistan as a new one begins. Shelter in place, U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan reports Kabul airport taking fire. There is the danger again, too, of Americans and others being taken hostage, or worse. And what will be the response there? That's key, too. Now, South Front, you can see now the red is controlled by the Taliban. Afghanistan's pretty much lost to the Taliban now. What will that mean? Well, there was another article, and you could still go to South Front and dig it up, where they were saying really the one that has the most to lose is actually China and Pakistan in some ways. As China and Pakistan have an agreement, an economic development agreement going on. And, the thought is that the group, the Taliban, for many instances, they will do their own thing regardless, so they won't kind of go along with agreements and things. And we've heard about, China even thinking about perhaps stationing troops here. or trying to. But will it go the same route as the US and Russia have, or will it be different this time? And there's a bigger play underfoot. This is I keep feeling that we are living in 1939, perhaps 1938, but it feels like 1939 to me. Taliban takes over Bagram Air Force Base, chaos at Kabul Airport, and I'll give you guys all the links. So this was the Air Force Base that hosted thousands of US and NATO troops for 20 plus years. It's given without a fight. And there was 5,000 captives, including members, they say, of Al-Qaeda that were captured by the Taliban now. Dozens of captives were freed by the group. Afghan sources claimed that no Al-Qaeda members were released. Of course, that wasn't verified. And of course, as we've shared, some of these people will fight on any side. It's whoever pays more money. Basically, they'll jump sides left and right, and perhaps profess a strong belief in whatever it is they're believing in, Islam or what have you. But when it comes to money, they're willing to change their beliefs sometimes.
Yeah, that's the
Some of
world
them.
we live in. We live in a very competitive type of world, and whoever is going to do better, well, that's the team I'm going to jump on, and it's that way throughout. It's really buried deep within the tapestry of our making. It's sad.
It is. It is. I mean, it all gets me thinking historically, and so I love looking, and I always was fascinated looking at tribal migrations. And one of them that's very interesting were the Go Turks, and some would say Go Turks. Who are those? But looking at their kingdom, and then moving forward into the Khazars, the Khazarian kingdom, and then we move even forward into, say the 1500s. And I know a lot of you guys have done the research and know the connections that go on there. But, we have people all of a sudden professing a belief in something they never believed in before. But it was all geopolitical, it was all strategic. Again, and that goes back to Constantine the Great. He was born a pagan. Sol Invictus was his god, as was so many Roman soldiers. Christianity was growing, but it was so diverse, that it was so different from place to place. Some people thought Jesus was the creator of everything. Others thought, no, he's just a prophet. Others thought, perhaps he's the Essene, teacher of light that we've been waiting for. They all thought different things about him. So, Constantine took advantage of the situation, said he had a revelation, he had a vision. Well, he said he had a revelation and vision from pagan gods as well. But this one said, conquer in the sign of the cross, and then he created an official version. And really, even our Bibles today really are coming from what he and his bishops decided going back starting in 325 AD as the scriptures that were not to be accepted were all burned. Every single copy that they could get their hands on, they destroyed. So there's more knowledge that was lost than kept by a mile.
It's pretty sad.
And again, it was all about control, power. Again, he killed his firstborn and his wife to maintain control and power because he feared that they might try to usurp him. This is exactly how this world works. As we see, counterinsurgency warplanes purchased by the US join the Taliban Air Force. Yeah, actually, they're having a good old time flying all sorts of US equipment that were left there. A-29 Super Tucano coin counterinsurgency warplanes were purchased by the US for the Afghan Air Force. These are some of the easiest and the lowest cost ones to fly. That's why they use them in droves. And these guys are so happy for the gifts that were left behind by the US military or provided by the US military. Yeah, they only cost $1,000 a day to fly, which makes you think about some of the more high-tech stuff, how much it costs per day to fly. and think about the cost of being made, and you understand why war is perhaps the most profitable thing. Maybe there's one other industry, the two industries that are so profitable, war itself, and let's, misspell on purpose, FARMA, right? Because this is what we have to go to is to misspell on purpose. So yeah, you got light scout attack helicopters that they're picking up, these warplanes as well, laser guided bombs, laser guided rockets. Yeah, they're happy today. They just had their Christmas day. They're opening their gifts. The U.S. supplies more than 60 MD 530F helicopters to the AAF, which again, now all this is under their control, and they're having a good old time. Study links excess, plague upon the land cases and deaths to wildfire smoke. New research indicates exposure to pollutants in wildfire smoke may have led thousands to thousands of more plague upon the land cases and deaths. And significant increases in California, Washington, and Oregon. The wildfires definitely exacerbated the plague upon the land significantly. And of course, there are many opinions besides the official ones on everything going on there as well. And study finds children born during lockdown have lost IQ points and they have impaired cognitive functioning. And, not only that, but just the youth of the world, since we've gone into these lockdowns, the suicide levels have gone through the roof. Through the roof. And how about suicide levels of soldiers as well and police? They've gone through the roof.
Well, I think this is very carefully planned. I don't feel that this is the first time these beings have done this.
Yeah, we have to in this world now. We've been exceedingly warned by our guides to be a little bit more cryptic, a little bit more cautious than ever. So we do have to be that way. But we know you guys are smart and you understand. And there will be people that understand as we move into the period where we can no longer even talk about, which we're already getting into, certain subjects that you just can't mention them. You can't mention them just like you couldn't mention things back in, again, that World War II era, especially, in certain countries that were under the control of certain entities, like a four-lettered entity that starts with an N and ends with an I, as we have perhaps before us a global FOURTHREICH, we should say. Yes, yogurt every day can keep Alzheimer's away. Probiotics, strong gut health, key to preventing dementia. Yes, yogurt has a lot of benefits, and particularly we both love Greek yogurt, and there's nothing like Greek yogurt with fresh berries that are organic and not sprayed with who knows what. But yeah, as of 2021, a whopping 6.2 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's. The number is projected to rise 22% by 2025. Globally, the number of people with dementia is predicted to triple to around 150 million by 2050 because of aging populations. 2050 is an interesting number too, because, we've shared with you guys what we have remote viewed. And, there have been others that remote viewed that time period too. And it seems that in 2050, we're back to living a more tribal life. Not like we're going off into a Jetson-esque, for those of you who remember that cartoon, future, but rather it's kind of back to nature as well, as this world's going to be a totally different world by that point in time. I think that the time frame we're in now is going to be the most challenging. The next 3-4 years are probably going to be the toughest years we're going to face, and then hopefully things will start going better by then. By the time we get to 2030, we should be well on our way to making some major changes. And again, there's certain AGENDAs out there that recognize this. But yes, in order to reverse age-related brain deterioration, it's all about their microbiome. And if we are only taking things that are anti-life, anti-bios, antibiotics, you're not rebuilding the microbiome. It's key and critical, and that's obviously a big part of why yogurt can help. Our 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 vision of this world is distorted, and I know most people are familiar with this. When we look at the globe, we see it this way, and it looks like Greenland is as big as North America. So this is the Mercator map, and it distorts things around the Arctic there. It's interesting to even think about what the reality is, because everything that we're being given is a distortion on so many different levels. So this is really kind of fascinating. And as it says, maps are hugely important tools in everyday life, whether guiding our journeys from point A to point B or shaping our big picture perception about geopolitics and the environment. So many people know the Mercator projection, the tool used for nautical navigation that eventually became the world's most widely, should say, recognized map. But it's distorted, and it comes from 1569 and a cartographer named Gerardus Mercator. So what's the reality? Because some of these continents are and areas are not as big. Well, this is really what they're saying going to true size. So we see distortion, reality. Man, that changes things, does it not?
It's really interesting to watch that. I mean, just sit and think about it and let that soak in a little bit.
So Greenland ends up, being, well, it's not gigantic. It's maybe about the size of Mexico. And we see, Russia looks so immense, but it's not that immense. It's still very, very large. Isn't that interesting? Think about how everything that we're looking at every day, things like we look at the map like this every day, and we're looking at a lie, a distortion. His story is just like that too. It's a story. And unfortunately, in these times, one that we dare not speak against. Well, for you guys that haven't checked it out, please do go check out our website, evolutionaryenergyarts.com. And you could check out some testimonials and some things that we do. Anybody that needs to make an appointment, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail or EEARTS@protonmail.com. And we want to thank our patrons because you guys make it possible for us to keep doing this in these times. And you guys, I think the family members understand we're not in this for the money. As we had shared before, think about YouTube. Okay, for the average for YouTube per 1,000 views is basically $2, right? So if our videos are getting, if we have a good video that they show getting 5,000 views, that's $10. That's not getting rich. This is not about that. This is about spreading information and awakening people. Our mission in this life is not to get rich, but our mission is to inform and to help others heal and heal themselves, as well as we view ourselves as healers in a holistic way, but also as teachers and guides. And so that's why we are here. We're here because we're here to help in these times. This is why we chose to come here in these times, and to share this experience with you guys, because we want to help you guys awaken, and we want to help bring in that new era, which is going to be so different than the dark age we are leaving. And also, we thank our supporters over on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time support for the channel or a monthly support. And the good people over at Medicinal Foods, making great products and also promoting consciousness. These are great guys. There's a link at on every video that will take you over to them. And as we are saying, these are good people. You see the Pineal Awakening Protocol. They have links there. 9 biohacks for health. Cavity healing protocol as well. Yeah, it is possible to naturally reverse some things. And there's reviews there for these wonderful people. And that's Sky, who is the founder as well of this good company. So we love you guys. We thank you for your support, your patronage, and as always, be prepared. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but we have to be prepared because we are going. If this was a roller coaster ride, we thought we went down a big hill. Well, there's a bigger one looming right in front right now. So hang on tight. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.